Hi, and welcome back to the Ultimate Road Trip Part 4. I'm so glad you decided to join me as we talk about emotional wellness. The letter to myself is specifically about growing your self-compassion. So remembering that you're human and turning down the volume on that critical voice that is inside of all of us. So the letter to myself works, and here's why it works. Self-compassion reduces painful feelings of shame and self-criticism that can compromise mental health and your well-being and stand in the way of your personal growth. Writing in a self-compassionate way can help replace your self-critical voice with a more compassionate one. One that comforts and reassures instead of berating yourself for your shortcomings. It takes time and it takes practice, but the more you write in this way, the more familiar your compassionate voice will become. And the easier it will be to remember to treat yourself with kindness and compassion when you're struggling through something or taking on a new challenge. And this is researched through the University of Texas, Austin. So, you're imperfect and you're wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging. That's what Brené Brown says. So, you've heard the research, but let me share my personal story of why a letter of self-compassion works so well. In 2009, I was diagnosed with a bad cancer, and I had a very tough year. During that year, I had a lot of time to reflect on how I was living. And I knew that once I made it through cancer, I wanted to do more than survive. I wanted to thrive. And so when one of my care team brought something up to me, I took it to heart. She said, you're really hard on yourself. And in addition to taking your cure and going on with your life, she said, I really want you to work on that. So I thought about that for a while, and I ended up talking with a cancer counselor. And that counselor said, I want you to write a letter to yourself where you're very compassionate with yourself. And so I did that. And through writing that letter, I was able to turn down that heavy self-criticism. And what it did was it gave me a renewed zest for living. And so I took on bigger challenges. And I went back to school. I got a master's degree. I pursued writing in a more professional way, getting published, and teaching. And all of those things were struggles like Brené talks about here. But I was able to stay with my goals because I'm developing that self-compassionate voice. And I'm a work in progress, just like everybody else. So you're going to write a compassionate letter to yourself. And what that means is you're going to be really kind to yourself and remember that you are a human and flawed and imperfect, but also wonderful. And you have many, many gifts. And so one of the things that I like to do to get myself in the right perspective is to read some poetry. And of course, right now it's escaping me. So there's a poem by the poet Mary Oliver, and it's called The Wild Geese. And in that, she says, you do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. And so with that in mind, the self-compassionate letter. Why should you try it? Well, we often judge ourselves harshly, beating ourselves up over our thoughts and shortcomings. And this can make us feel isolated and unhappy and stressed. And so rather than all that harsh self-criticism, a healthier response is to treat yourself with compassion and understanding. So this compassion has three main components: mindfulness, a feeling of common humanity, and self-kindness. And the compassionate letter exercise asks you to express compassion for an aspect of yourself that you don't like. Research suggests that people who respond with compassion to their own flaws and setbacks, rather than beating themselves up, experience greater physical and mental health. So that's why. So take a little time and write a letter to your sweet self. Dear me, dear self, what could I let go of? What am I worried about? What's going well in my life? Don't forget to acknowledge the good, okay? Here are some prompts in case you get stalled and you need something to keep you moving while you write the letter. Am I happy? Am I letting myself be happy? Am I spending my time on the things that matter? Am I true to my authentic self? Do I take time to celebrate my achievements? And am I practicing good self-care? These are some points that you can think about while you're writing. So here's the guidelines. Your letter is private. You will not hand your letter in as an assignment. This is between you and you, what I like to call the wise mind and our emotional self. So find a paper and pen in a quiet place. Begin with an address. Dear Sweet Pea, if you like, or Dear Old Self. And then keep those prompts nearby in case you get stalled. Then let these words flow from your heart onto the paper. And finally, trust the process. And when you're all done, seal it with a kiss. This is a gift to you now and a gift to your future self. Keep your letter and revisit it. Make letter writing part of your self-care routine, or add your self-compassionate letter to your journal if you like to journal. Or you could start a journal with this letter. Self-compassion is simply giving the same kindness to ourselves that we would give to others. So enjoy and best of luck as you complete your road trip assignment.